At Blinds.com, it's not just about window treatments. It's about you, your style, your space, your way. Whether you DIY or want the pros to handle it all, you'll have the confidence of knowing it's done right. From free expert design help to our 100% satisfaction guarantee, everything we do is made to fit your life and your windows. Because at Blinds.com, the only thing we treat better than windows is you. Black Friday deals are going on all month long. Save up to 45% off site-wide plus an additional 10% off every order right now at Blinds.com. Rules and restrictions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Fiscally responsible, financial geniuses, monetary magicians. These are things people say about drivers who switch their car insurance to Progressive and save hundreds. Visit Progressive.com to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary, not available in all states or situations.
This is the Cats Roundtable with John Catsimatidis.
Everywhere around the world, they come to America. Every time that flag's unfurled, they come to America.
Good morning, America. This is the Cats Roundtable. John Catsimatidis here. One great show for you again today. Jonathan Bush, another Bush family member, running for governor of Maine. Tom Gaynor, a big corporate CEO, on how is the economy going. Matt Valerie, on assisted suicide for end of life. Nicole Parker, former FBI, wrote a great book on the two FBIs. Dr. Peter Michalos, Live Long and Prosper. General Teichert on some of the new aircraft jets and where they're going to be located. Lynn Shaw on protecting our kids. And let's start off with Congressman Tim Burchett from the state of Tennessee on our country. With us today is Congressman Timothy Burchett. There's so many things going on. Let's go for the Epstein thing first. Congress passed it. Senate passed it. The president signed it. Where the heck are we?
I think we're back where we started. Really, the Democrats aren't even going to bring it up now because I think it's going to implicate Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton and a bunch of ranking Democrats. You got a former Harvard president. You got a couple other people that are huge Democrat contributors. I think they've bit off more than they can chew. We used to say, in the old country saying about the dog chasing the school bus, well, dadgummit, they caught that school bus. Now what's he going to do with it?
You think it's, even though everybody signed off on it and everybody, it's a done deal, you think that it's going to be held back?
I still think there's some problems with it that are going on. I was hoping they would redact the names of some of the girls who were abused. You know, when I was in a closed-door meeting with them, it was bipartisan, Democrats and Republicans, and they were talking about it. This one girl said that her name was redacted in all the files because she'd asked for it to be, but she wanted to see the files so that she had blacked out. You know, God gives you a defense mechanism sometimes if you encounter something really horrific that your body, your mind just blacks it out. And she just wanted to see what they'd done to her. And so I asked the question, so you want the files released? And she said, no, I didn't. And her attorney even stepped in and said, no, we don't. And so there's a lot of confusion out there. And I'm afraid there's going to be some innocent ladies who are going to end up walking out at Thanksgiving with their family, and they're going to have a bunch of TV cameras shoved in their face, and they're going to have to relive this whole thing. You know, Chairman Comer had the right idea. He'd released over 50,000 pages of files, and he'd gone through it and redacted all the names of some of the ladies and innocent people that had just flown on the plane. Because this guy was, I mean, you're a prominent businessman. You're around people all the time. They want to drop your name. And that's exactly what this guy did. He dropped Trump's name. And, you know, the thing about Trump banned him from Mar-a-Lago over 17 years ago because he was messing with some of the young ladies that were staff there. And he said, "You're out, dude." And he banned him from it. He was probably trying to get them to make more money, if you know what I mean. Absolutely, 100%. And then now we know Epstein was texting members of Congress, giving them questions to ask of people that were going after President Trump. You know, the whole thing just stinks for the Democrats, yet they're riding around on their white horse right now, but they're complicit and guilty. Where the hell were they the last 4 years? I'll tell you where they were, hiding. President Trump tried to get the files out 3 different times, and 3 different times federal judges, all Democrat appointees, blocked every single attempt he had.
It sounds like somebody has to go to jail in Washington, otherwise they're just going to go on normal course of business.
Absolutely. And that's the trouble with this town, John. You see it all the time. You know, we raise hell about something, and then, you know, I always say Americans want their pizzas in 30 minutes or less, and that's about our dadgum attention span. We're going to move on to some bright, shiny object, and this will never, ever occur. Nothing will ever happen unless we do it right now.
These insider transactions with a lot of Congress people that are making zillions of dollars on insider information, and it just keeps going. And I guess you can't, the Congress people, they can't police themselves.
No, heck no. It's honestly, you've got congressmen making 600-700 transactions a year. I mean, give me a break. And they claim they're not using insider information. We're in meetings. We talk to people. You don't even have to be in the meeting. You can talk to a lobbyist or somebody or a lawyer representing one of these groups, and they tell you about an investment they're getting ready to make or an industry they're getting ready to move into. That's what we're up against, John. We're not, and it's both sides. That's why you see a bipartisan. There's not too many times you see Tim Burchett and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez agree on anything, but dadgummit, this is one of those. You know, everybody raises Cain about Pelosi, and they should, but she's like number 11 on the list. There's a website called Unusual Whales, and they list the top 100. I'm not in it, of course, much to my wife's disappointment that I don't make those stock trades.
What is the website?
Unusual Whales, WHALES, Unusual Whales. They'll list the 100, and it's pretty evenly split between Republicans and Democrats. And I told them yesterday at the press conference, you know, we're going to get up here in righteous indignation, and we're not going to pass anything. Or if we do pass it, the Senate will fall into a great abyss over there. They will never bring it up, or they'll pass something a lot stronger or something that we won't agree to. And then both sides will go home and say, oh, well, we tried. And they'll move on to another bright, shiny object. And that's the game up here. But President Trump supports it. The Department of the Treasury supports it. Everybody supports it, except for members of Congress that are getting rich off of it.
The birth rate in the United States, the birth rate all over the world. I mean, the one that surprised me last week was the Italians. The Italians are considered the most virile men in the world, or at least they say they are. But the birth rate in Italy is down to 1.1. Now, is there something going on that we don't know about?
I have legislation. You know, I didn't go to the secret briefing because if I did, I couldn't talk about it. Actually, I read about it after I knew it was going on, but I read it in the press, so it's out there. The Chinese are developing a genome, which is they study our genetic information, to where they can infect childbearing age American women with something to stop them from having children. Now, how are they getting our genome? They're buying it from American companies. These I won't do them. Those Ancestry.coms where they always find out you're related to the King of England. Nobody's ever a horse thief. I think all my people were horse thieves. But they get this stuff and they develop all this genetic information and they sell it to the Chinese. Well, I've been trying for over a year to stop that. I can't even get the bill in committee because the K Street lobbyists, somebody's getting fat selling this stuff, and they're in bed with the communist Chinese. It's got to stop, John. It has got to stop. Stalin or Lenin allegedly, one of them said, we're going to sell them the rope they hang themselves with. Well, this is that rope, and we are going to hang ourselves with this if we're not careful.
Why is the birth rate down? Is somebody in the world that thinks that 8 billion people are too many people doing something to the food we eat or whatever?
Yes, sir. Well, they develop a genome, and a genome is just a history of your genetic material, and then they can develop. It's like COVID. Actually, they developed a disease, COVID, that was, I think, was the problem we were told by some people in the intelligence community was that the problem the Chinese had was that people were just living too long over there, and this was. I mean, this is the same people that toyed with the idea up to the 70s of dropping a nuclear bomb on their own people just to see the effects. They are developing a genome, genetic history, and traits so they can develop diseases to stop people from having babies. So what's happening in Italy, you better start paying attention to what's going on. That could be happening around the world.
Congressman Tim Burchett from Tennessee, thank you so much for coming on. And we'll work together to try to save America. Thank you so much.
God bless you, sir. Thank you for what you do for this great country, and thank you, sir.
The Cats Roundtable.
Well, elections are coming up in 2026, and what is today is Jonathan Bush. And he's going to run for governor in Maine. And Jonathan Bush, welcome to the Cats Roundtable. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, John. Thank you very much for having me on.
Well, you were in the studio last week, and I introduced you to Greg Kelly, who's one good guy, Commissioner Kelly's son, and you guys had a great conversation.
Yeah, we loved it. What a good guy! What a great show he's got, and it'll be fun to watch New York. New York and Maine don't have a lot in common, but right now we're going to have in common an experiment with socialism. And we've tried it in Maine. We haven't liked it very much at all. We're going to throw it back out. But and of course, you guys can try it now for a while and see if you like it.
We have no choice, and I understand that that Zoran is going to be meeting with the president and met with the president or whatever. And let's see what happens there. And let's talk about Maine. Give us the big picture in Maine. I go back with your, I guess your uncle, President Bush, the number, what is it, 43 or 41?
41 was yeah.
And your other uncle, 43. And so
43 is my cousin. That's right.
So tell us, where do you come from? Your name is Jonathan Bush. And your father was Jonathan Bush, and he was the brother of 41.
That's right. Yeah. So Maine is a great. Everybody's gone. You've gone to visit Maine, and you have this incredible experience of connection of wild, enormous, hundreds of millions of acres of forest, thousands of miles of coastline, more coastline in Maine than in all of California combined. It's an incredible connection to nature. But when the tourists leave, it's even better. There's a neighbor energy. People help each other out. A tree falls in your driveway. Some guy comes over you barely know, and there he is cutting away with you. It's a great community spirit and a great work ethic. But our pie's been shrinking, and our leadership has been fixated on how to divide the shrinking pie, who gets to equitably be next in line for this handout and that handout. And the freedom of motion of the economy is getting suffocated. And the frustration is building. And so finally, I tried throwing my shoe at the television, John, but nothing worked. So I decided I just got to throw my hat in the ring instead.
Well, you're a successful businessman. Tell people about a short thing about your business.
Yeah, what was it? Almost 30 years ago, some friends and I in the basement of my split-level ranch started a company called Athena Health, when we basically ended up taking on all the crap work that doctors hate and do badly by putting it on the Internet. We built a network called AthenaNet, and today 1 in every 5 visits to the doctor in the country happen on AthenaNet. And a lot of the backroom work that supports that is in Maine. And you and I, John, have accounts on AthenaNet. You get a bill or a lab result, or you log in to see your notes. All of that happens on AthenaNet. And it was a big contribution to doctors being able to stay in business, stay in practice. And I'm thrilled that there's 1,000 folks in Maine that have worked for Athena, and that the communities that they live in have grown economically. And I want to see if we can repeat that miracle again and again and again in Maine, because the experience, not just as the entrepreneur, but as the employer, as a colleague, seeing all these great people, I know you know this feeling, have great jobs, be excited about their careers and what they're doing themselves for their families is the greatest feeling in the world.
I used to go up to Kennebunkport with President Bush 41, and I remember Olympia Snowe being there, Susan Collins being there. Olympia Snowe's husband was the governor of Maine at that time.
And Jock McKernan, great guy.
Yes, and it's a lot of great people up there. I hope that you guys can get Maine going in the right direction.
Yeah, that's the goal, John. We're excited about it. We've done it before. You point out the statesmen. We punch above our weight class in terms of the statesmen we contribute to Washington, all the way back to Margaret Chase Smith, the great senator during the McCarthy era who stood up to Joe. It's a great place that sends out great people to help our country, and we got to get back on track to growing our pie instead of sort of sitting here depressed talking about decline.
Well, President Trump has a lot to say about things these days, and the fact is, I know you were down to see at the White House on a couple of days ago, and I hope he endorses you, because a lot of people go his direction.
Well, I think you're right. Obviously, I'll take all the help I can get from everybody. It's a big primary, so I wouldn't want we want to have a good, rugged shootout here amongst the Republicans, and let the best one, the one who's most likely to win, kind of come out on top. And then, of course, we want all the help from the White House we can get, and from everyone to win the general election. But there was a great meeting. They're great guys. The woman who runs the Northeast for the president used to be the bag lady for Susan Collins. She knows everyone in Maine, and she's got a great spirit. It was a lot of fun meeting with those guys.
Well, Jonathan Bush, thank you for calling in. We're behind you, and God bless you. Give us your website so people who want to support you, they can support you.
Absolutely. JonathanBush.org. www.jonathanbush.org. Thank you guys very much for having me on.
Thank you so much, and we'll catch up again real soon.
All right.
You are listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back.
This shrimp and coconut sauce is divine. What's your secret?
Goya coconut milk.
How does it taste so good?
It's all in that real coconut flavor and that rich, creamy texture.
What about thickeners and added sugars?
None. Just smooth, coconutty goodness.
What can I make with it?
From curries to sweet treats like coconut flan, the possibilities are endless.
Goya coconut milk. Take your cooking to the next level. No question about it. Find it in the Goya section of your local grocery store. If it's Goya, it has to be good.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday, because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day. Yeah? Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. With us today is Dr. Peter Michalos. Well, Dr. Peter Michalos, what new facts are you going to give us today?
Well, today, John, we're going to tie in a lot of different things that we've talked about over the years about health and longevity, things like fasting and olive oil and avocados, but we're going to try to piece it all together, and some of the exciting new research that's just come out like an observational study with women that have been followed for 30 years, and they found that the women who took metformin, for example, compared to other diabetes medication, they experienced a much higher incidence of exceptional longevity of living over 90. And that's pretty amazing that they had a 30% lower death risk before age 90 compared to other medicines.
But as being you got to make sure the metformin comes from the right country because it hasn't been proven, but there's stuff that comes from the wrong countries may have other additives in it that is not good for us.
No, you're absolutely right. But getting back to the exciting studies, also they found that hyperinsulinemia or high insulin levels were found to be involved in causing more pancreatic cancer, and that's thought to be by overstimulating the pancreatic cells, and also basically a self-feeding effect because too much insulin drives more sugar into the cancer cells. So that's another exciting area that we have to start thinking about more. And when people go for their physical, they check their hemoglobin A1C and their blood sugar, which may be normal, but nobody ever asks, can you please check my fasting insulin levels? So when you see a pattern of rising insulin levels, that you can have normal blood sugar, but rising insulin levels can warn you of oncoming diabetes, but also it's a risk factor in cancer, and that's why, as we've talked about, that big study where they found as we age, cells multiply faster, make more copying errors, and that's associated with rising insulin levels, and that's why we talked about things that can help control the rising insulin levels, and that's why fasting and intermittent fasting, which basically promotes cellular cleanup and helps control your insulin levels. So when you don't constantly throw food in your stomach, you're not shooting out insulin constantly. And shooting out insulin constantly and stimulating your pancreas is associated with more cancer. And that was also published in Nature, which is a major journal. The things I want to talk about are some of the things that can help. For example, we've talked about things like avocado, but now we know a lot more about avocados, that they actually help with vitamin absorption because like dissolves like, and vitamin A, D, E, and K get better absorbed when you eat avocados. And avocados contain vitamin B6, folate, vitamin E, and potassium, and they're also a good prebiotic that feeds the good bacteria. And they've also been shown that the monounsaturated fats that avocado have lowers the LDL level, and avocados have been shown to improve insulin sensitivity. So there, again, it ties in with the whole cancer story, and the fibers that it has are essential for good brain function and heart function. And then the other thing we're going to touch upon is olive oil, because they've shown, this is really amazing, that olive oil actually facilitates programmed cell death, which is called apoptosis, which tells the bad cells, hey, we don't need you anymore, you need to just commit suicide, basically, and it gets rid of bad cell. And it also blocks cancer stem cells. I mean, that is new research that's showing that olive oil actually blocks these cancer stem cells.
That is mind-boggling. The olive oil blocks the cancer. Is that traditionally then the countries like Italy and Spain and Greece, that the people have a lot of olive oil in those countries? Is the cancer rate lower in those countries than it is in other countries?
Well, the countries like within the country, like areas like Sardinia, use a ton of olive oil. They're a blue zone. It's a common theme. Icaria, Greece, they use a ton of olive oil. And yes, the people who use olive oil in those countries seem to do better. And it also stimulates these mesenchymal stem cells, healthy cells, which help with healing and regenerative medicine. So olive oil actually helps to repair and regenerate, which is also fascinating. And then they found that the olive oil contains the oleic acid, also found in the avocados, which basically suppresses tumor growth, and it also stimulates the sirtuin and fox genes, which basically are longevity genes. So it seems to be the common denominator in the blue zones. And then people say, well, how come Loma Linda, California is on that list? Because they might need a lot of olive oil, but they have a lot of avocados, which also has oleic acid, which seems to have this effect.
So the key thing, avocados should be in your diet. How many times a week? And olive oil, how many times a week? What do you think? Just opinion.
I think if you can have some avocados 5 times a week and olive oil every single day, I actually take 2 swigs every day of extra virgin olive oil.
And you got to make sure you get real olive oil, because at one time, 70% of the olive oil sold in supermarkets was not 100% olive oil.
Yes, and it also becomes rancid after the 2 years after the date of picking. So when you see blended olive oil, forget it. So you need to, when you go in and you buy the really good extra virgin olive oil, you just look for the expiration date and try to get extra virgin olive oil and have it every day. And these are important things that are all coming together about how sugar and insulin, and it's all related to a lot of our diseases, and it'll help slow it down to help us live long and prosper.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peter Michalos, and let's catch up again real soon, and God bless you and God bless America.
And thank you for giving us the microphone to always get the truth out on the Cats Roundtable.
The Cats Roundtable.
Well, with us today is Thomas Gaynor, and he's the CEO of Markel, which is a large domestic international insurance company and financial company.
Thanks so much. Great to be here.
You are a pretty big company. How big is your company now?
The market value of the company is about $25 billion these days.
Give or take $1 billion.
Give or take $1 billion.
And what area of the market is the best for you right now?
Well, the company went public in 1986, and at that time the market cap was about $40 million, so it's been a pretty good run since then.
President Trump has said that he's bringing back $18 trillion worth of investment in the United States, which if all that comes through, I mean, we're going to need a lot of people to work these jobs.
That is correct, and I hope they will need insurance, they'll need bread, they'll need flowers and plants, they'll need IT consulting, and we do all of those things. So we just try to make sure that we have a good business that can take care of people, that can serve people, and earn a good profit from doing so. So we would root for that to happen.
Explaining it to people how the tariffs work and how that it's inducing people to do more investments in the United States is tough. How do you tell people that?
Well, I think the main thing that we do is we got to focus on taking care of customers. And that's one customer at a time, one person at a time, one service, one product. And whether tariffs are 0 or 10% or 100%, if we're not taking care of the customer and doing what they want, we don't have a business. So take care of the business first, and everything else you can figure out.
We have 350 million people in our country. A lot of them are not happy. A lot of them are happy. Give us the pulse of different parts of the country.
I think pretty much anything you're looking for, you can find. So this is a big country. There are 350 million people. So there's 350 million different stories that people would have. A lot of them pretty tough. So there's some people out there that are struggling, that are challenged. There's a generation that's entering the workforce that is maybe having a little bit tougher time. But the good news is there is no one way in the U.S. We've always embraced the idea of creativity and entrepreneurship and just people on their own somehow or another figuring out how to make way and make forward progress themselves. And some days that seems a little easier. Some days it seems a little tougher, but that's what I continue to observe out there.
The economy in 2026, we have a major election coming up in 2026. The markets have hit all-time highs 58 times, was it for this year already? How do you see 2026 versus 2027?
I really don't approach the world from the top down or have a big picture forecast. We try to think about Are there areas where people need some insurance that they're not being well served right now? So we'll come up with a service or a product to take care of those kinds of risks. There are new risks that go along with new things coming along every day, and that's our bread and butter, and that's what we try to figure out how to take care of. People need housing. We have a housing company. People need medical services. We have a concierge medical business. People are hungry. We have a bakery equipment company that'll break buns and rolls for hot dogs and hamburgers that people want to eat. And I think in 27, 26, 25, and whether you're talking about 2025, 1925, or the year 2525, if I remember an old song from when I was a kid, people are still going to want and need the kind of stuff that we do, and that's what I worry about, not the overall stuff.
Interest rates in your company are very, very important.
Hugely important.
President Trump says we want lower interest rates. The real estate market has suffered a great deal over the last few years. Chairman Powell is going to be out one way or another by the spring of 26. Do you see interest rates dropping a great deal at that point?
I think interest rates are going to do what interest rates are going to do, no matter whose hand is at the wheel. And whether it's the president, whether it's the chairman of the Federal Reserve, they have huge influence. There's nobody that is more important in any given individual thing. But the market, the 350 million people, and the supply and demand for money and capital, that's really what sets rates in the long run, and that's what I pay attention to.
Thomas Gaynor, CEO of the Markel Group, thank you so much for coming on, and let's catch up again real soon.
Thank you.
You are listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. If you ever miss a segment or want to hear it again, go to WABCRadio.com, go to podcasts, go to minicast, and play back your favorite segment. We have Brigadier General John Teichert, retired, and he was with Space Force at one time too. Also, he was the Assistant Deputy and Undersecretary of the Air Force. General Teichert, what the heck happened with Saudi Arabia, and what happened with those F-35s?
John, I think this last week, the visit from Saudi Arabia was groundbreaking because the president made a commitment that I think surprised some people, but it's important for our regional posture, which is a willingness to sell F-35s to our trusted friends and partners in Saudi Arabia. And I think it's interesting. Those are very high-end aircraft, not quite as good as F-22s, but pretty close. But we have been on the verge of selling them to UAE. We have been on the verge of selling them to Turkey. But Saudi probably is going to become the first Middle Eastern country to have those F-35s. And it really means two things. Number one, it means that they'll help us more strongly resist Iranian aggression in the region. And number two, it's a great way to partner up and especially break down some barriers to allow relations between them and Israel, which has been a major goal for us and for President Trump all along.
Now, the Saudis also got a new status, almost like, a quasi-NATO status. What was that all about?
It is. It is called a non-NATO major defense partner. And really, that's just codifying what I think has been the case for a long time. For decades, we have been close friends with Saudi Arabia. They have been, in many ways, our most stalwart partner in the Arab world. We have been selling them great equipment thus far. That has included very advanced F-15s. That's included Patriot missiles. All of it has been great to contain Iran, because Iran, if they're scared of anybody apart from the United States and Israel, it's Saudi. And now, based on the equipment sales of F-35s and this new somewhat mutual defense treaty that's NATO-like, that it helps Iran realize, or others, that if you attack Saudi Arabia, it's very similar to attacking the United States, which means that you're going to have to contend with the Saudi response and probably a U.S. response as well. And so that's a big step. By the way, Saudi Arabia committed to investing $1 trillion in the United States. That is
that is a big number.
Population of this country. That is a big number, $1 trillion.
And when I had dinner with President Trump a few weeks ago, we only had $17 trillion. I wonder what we're up to now.
No, I think it's amazing. I mean, I think at some point when President Trump went over and visited Qatar, UAE, and Saudi Arabia, Saudi had committed something only like $600 billion, but they upped that to $1 trillion during this visit. So while we may take a step back and say, hey, what are we doing selling F-35s, or what are we doing with this defense partnership, think about the benefit to the average American of an investment by one country, Saudi Arabia, of $1 trillion that will increase jobs and economic activity in the United States.
That means we keep building in America. We create new jobs in America. If we build in America, those people don't get tariffs, I guess. That's a big saving.
No, I mean, you think about an F-35 sale as an example, that will be companies in America like Lockheed that build the F-35, or like Pratt & Whitney that build the engines for that F-35, that are going to benefit, and all of those jobs that come with it.
Well, thank you so much, General Teichert. Saudi Arabia is a good ally to have, and it's good to have them as a quasi-NATO state.
You got that right, and those F-35s are going to bring jobs to the United States.
The Cats Roundtable.
Well, we've heard a lot about the FBI lately, and we have a former agent. Her name is Nicole Parker, and she was a special agent in the Miami office. And Nicole has written a new book, and the name of the new book is The Two FBIs. Nicole Parker, welcome to the Cats Roundtable. How are you this morning?
I'm doing fabulous. I'm really grateful to join your program today.
Now, you've been in the FBI. You were a special agent, or you were a regular agent or special agent?
Yeah, I was a special agent. I joined the FBI in 2010. I went to the training at Quantico, and then I was assigned to the FBI Miami field office, and I spent my entire time in the Miami division working white-collar crime, and then the bulk of my time at the FBI, I was working violent crime on the #1 nationally ranked violent crime fugitive task force.
Wow. And in those 12 years, I mean, I'm sure you've had a lot of interesting cases, but what made you write the book?
So what inspired me to write the book, ultimately, I was a witness to the 9/11 terrorist attacks on September 11th of 2001. And at the time, I was working for Merrill Lynch. I was working on Wall Street. I was working with the chairman of Merrill Lynch International, and I saw that most horrific catastrophe, an attack on our nation. And there was a vow that I made to myself that day and to God that one day I would go back and serve our country.
Wow. So
forward,
you were there.
Yep,
you were there at Merrill Lynch,
there.
And you watched those towers get hit, and you were an assistant to the, the Merrill Lynch people?
Yeah, so I was working for Merrill Lynch, correct, for Win Smith. His father is actually a founder of Merrill Lynch, Win Smith Jr. He was not there that day. He was in Japan, and I worked with his business manager, and I saw the entire thing happen before my eyes. We evacuated the building, myself and other colleagues at Merrill Lynch, and I will never forget being on the elevator, absolutely terrified. I was barely 23 years old. I was originally from Texas, and to see that, it really scared me. It terrified me, but I made a vow to God, one day I will go back and serve my country.
And
many people helped me that day from NYPD. They got us away from the building, and I said, one day I will go back and I will help others. And that is what inspired me to join the FBI.
And you went in and joined the FBI. You did your training at Quantico. Is that where it is?
Yes. Yes,
and
the
then,
Marine Corps base, Quantico, Virginia. Mm-hmm.
And then you were assigned to the Miami office, and that's where you did a lot of work.
Correct. So I started off working white-collar crime with my finance background, and then I shifted, like I said, into violent crime. And, John, the types of cases that I was working, they were very sad. They were tragic. I saw a lot of horrible things. I worked the Parkland school shooting. I worked the Fort Lauderdale airport shooting. I worked crimes on the high seas, human trafficking of children. It was heartbreaking. But I refer to two FBIs. FBI 1 are the honorable agents who tried to do the right thing for the right reasons. And that's what I believe that myself and my colleagues in Miami were doing our best on, is FBI 1 work, trying to stop violent criminals and other people. On the other hand, there was FBI 2. That was the politically and socially weaponized FBI. That's the epitome of disgusting and despicable, and they are the ones that have destroyed the reputation of the agency. And that would be people like James Comey, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Andrew McCabe,
And these people, were they career FBI people or were they politically
Yes.
assigned people?
No. Besides James Comey, everyone else had been in the agency for years. And what they did is, we all know what happened when James Comey came before the American people on July 5th of 2016 and said that no reasonable prosecutor would charge Hillary Clinton for her handling of classified materials on a personal server. And that's when we knew that the FBI had become political. Then Operation Crossfire Hurricane happens, and then they go after the Trump administration, or at the time it was the Trump campaign, and his people, saying that they were colluding with Russia. It was all completely false. They were using false information to swear out warrants. They were using the Steele dossier, which was false information. And the sad part is, while they're destroying the FBI and our reputation of trust, there were good people in FBI 1 that were still continuing to try to do the real work. The other part of the FBI that I think is very destructive is the focus on the DEI initiative. They were no longer focused on enforcing laws so much. They were more concerned about being social justice warriors. And so there are many instances in my book. For me, the breaking point, there were several of them. The end of the book really focuses on FBI 2, one thing after another. My best friend in the FBI, Special Agent Laura Schwarzenberger, was shot and killed in the line of duty February of 2021, right after the Biden administration had taken over, and they were so focused on January 6th misdemeanors and sending our FBI SWAT team for misdemeanors, nonviolent offenders, but yet my friend did not have any SWAT protection for her when she was taking down the most violent predator, a child pedophile. And the FBI kind of brushed it under the rug like it never happened. They didn't pay for her funeral. There was another agent who was also killed. These are things that you don't hear about because at the FBI, you're not allowed to talk. So having left, I just felt it was important. Americans deserve to know the truth. They deserve to know what's happening at the FBI, and it's time to restore, it's time to reform, and it's time to hold people accountable.
Nicole Parker, tell me the name of the book. The name of the book is The Two FBIs.
Correct.
By
The Two
Nicole
FBIs,
Parker.
yes.
And it's available, I guess, in, tell us the websites.
It's at any major bookstore, barnesandnoble.com, walmart.com, target.com, amazon.com, and your favorite book retailer. Again, it's The Two FBIs, the bravery and betrayal I saw in my time at the Bureau.
Well, Nicole Parker, God bless you and God bless America, and thank you for pursuing this and pursuing the truth.
Thank you so much, and God bless y'all. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You are listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. The suicide bill. Governor Hochul's desk, and she's trying to decide which way to go. With us today is Matt Valieri, Executive Director of the Patients' Right Action Fund. He has the alternative opinion. Well, Matt, give it to us.
Look, the assisted suicide bill in New York, Governor Hochul should absolutely veto this bill. It's just too dangerous for New Yorkers. You know, some of these advocates, they say, I'm not belittling in any way the suffering of people who are at the end of their lives. It is a hard and difficult moment. But I will say this, is that in order to give one person who has privilege and a lot of autonomy and a lot of choices in their lives, one more means to an end that they already have access to, that is killing themselves. There's no dearth of lethal means in this country. We have, a suicide epidemic on our hands because of it. These bills don't do anything for patients. They do everything for doctors. It removes liability from doctors in helping somebody to kill themselves. So what you have,
and it also helps the insurance companies a great deal.
Well, so it could, right? So insurance companies have stayed out of this fight, but the fact of the matter is that for-profit insurance companies and budget-starved bureaucracies trying to insure people for their health care gain tremendously, because if you opt out with 6 months left in your health care spending, then they save millions. Additionally, in the last 10 years, 15 years, medical science has come so far in the areas of hospice and palliative care. If you're suffering at the end of life, the likelihood that you need a new set of doctors is very high. I mean, they can alleviate nearly 100% of physical pain at the end of life if the patient's willing to be asleep. This isn't about physical pain. If you look at the data reports that come out of some of the legal states and the states that do track why people are requesting lethal drugs in the first place, physical pain doesn't even hit the top 5. It's all about, I feel like I'm afraid of losing my autonomy. I feel like I'm afraid of losing my dignity. And when you drill down on what dignity means to them, it's like, I can't go to the bathroom by myself anymore. I have to use a wheelchair. What are we going to say to the millions of people in America today that use a wheelchair or that need help going to the bathroom? Is their life no longer dignified? No, absolutely not. We can't send that message either to the millions of people in New York with disabilities or to our youth, to the young people who might be negatively impacted by the fact that people they know are going to see suicide as a way out of their troubles.
How do the religious institutions feel about it? Because one of the things one of my doctor friends said to me, that he's seen it, that an 85-year-old or an 88-year-old or a 90-year-old, if they have $2 million in insurance or assets, sometimes he's seen their children come in and make sure that they die so they can get the money earlier. I know that sounds evil and sounds terrible, but stuff happens.
Yeah, this is one of the great concerns with assisted suicide bills. You know, it presumes that everyone has a nice family. You know, that coercion doesn't happen behind closed doors, but it does. And not everyone has a nice family. You know, the religious communities have certainly, so as you know, John, our organization is a secular, nonpartisan group. We work with everyone who opposes assisted suicide laws, both in New York State, and by and large, the religious communities oppose this, both on religious grounds. Certainly, you know, there's there are various ideas about the sanctity and dignity of people's lives, and the inherent value of every human being, regardless of their health or disability status. But it also, most religious communities, whether Muslim, Hindu, Jews, Christians, often have a great solicitude for the vulnerable and the poor, people who are historically underprivileged groups. And when you have a public policy like this is the big question. Do you make public policy that benefits, supposedly, this extremely small group, a private interest, or do you do what's good for the public, for the greatest number of people? And we and our religious allies are particularly concerned that people from historically underprivileged groups, underrepresented groups, they're going to get the short end of the stick on this, and that vulnerable people don't have the same options and the same access as everybody else.
We're running out of time. You have a website people can go to?
Yes. So you can go to PRAF, Paul Ralph Adam Frank.org to get involved on the political side to ask Governor Hochul to veto.
.com or .org?
.org, yep. And then if you want to learn more about our litigation strategy to overturn these laws in other states where they have legalized already because they violate the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Constitution, you can look at endassistedsuicide.org. Anyone who wants to donate to that cause, it would be instituteforpatients.org/donate.
Thank you so much, Matt Valeri. PRAF, PRAF.org. Give me the other one again.
instituteforpatients.org.
Thank you so much, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks. Take care, John. Bye-bye.
The Cats Roundtable.
We always check on Lynn's Warriors on who's taking care of the kids and to make sure we're taking care of the kids. Well, Lynn, there was a lot of news this week. You attended a White House conference?
John, there is excellent news coming out of the White House this week, and that is about the Department of Education. President Trump issued an executive order dismantling the Department of Education. Linda McMahon, Secretary of Education, is on a 50-state tour to talk to parents, teachers, and even kids to how we can really build up and empower our kids. Because, John, National Report Cards came out about 2 months ago, Every grade is failing, K through 12, in the United States, and that is unacceptable. That is math, science, reading, comprehension, also critical thinking, critical analysis. So let's get into what this Department of Education is and what it does and why the president wants to get rid of this. I mean, it was established in 1979. The mission, they told us, was to promote student achievement and enforce these federal education laws and manage funding for schools and setting national priorities and collecting student loan information, just information on kids, nudging states with grants tied to different policy goals. But we found out that all of this going on, the department mostly is just using money and regulations to influence behavior from Washington. And, John, we learned during the COVID period, especially parents, what was going on with the school unions and their education and what the kids were being taught and all these ideologies. And parents want reading, writing, and arithmetic. So let me tell you why this week this is so important, because now the Department of Education will be broken up, basically kind of just money running through it, nothing happening to empower parents or kids. They're going to give pieces of it to different agencies such as the Department of Labor, Department of Interior, Department of State, and Department of Health and Human Services. They're going to give them each a chunk to work directly so we can get down to the bottom of making our schools great again. So what does this mean for parents? It means that they will have school choice. It also means they will have a say in something. It also means it'll, raise our education standards. And the president is also urging that we are going to work with Congress to make things happen, again, with the goal of empowering our kids. We cannot have kids K through 12 failing at all these subjects. It's just not going to happen. So it's scaling back federal oversight, giving states the control so we don't have all this mess going on, and local decision-making. Again, in the community. That is the goal. That has always been the goal of President Trump, to get rid of this and to establish somehow a Department of Education that would really work, because nothing has worked. And this tour that Secretary McMahon is on is absolutely wonderful. She's going to be touring now. She started a few weeks ago, right through 2026. So I think this is excellent news, helping parents, helping families, and again, empowering our kids, our future American adults, our future American leaders to make the United States great.
Is this bill signed or is it an executive order? What is it?
This is an executive order as of last Tuesday.
Are the federal courts going to allow him to do that?
Well, you know what? It's going to have to go to Congress. I think he's going to make it happen.
Is there any bipartisan support?
There is bipartisan support, absolutely.
So, in other words, they'll be able to go, the kids will be able to go to any school they really want?
That's the goal of it, that parents will have a say in this. Look, we've talked forever about, you pay your taxes. You should be able to pick what school, whether it's private, it's charter. Homeschooling, a report was just out this past week that said 7% of American children K through 12 are now being homeschooled. There is a new saying. It's called the unschooling, because, again, the schools were supposed to be, safe, and education and learning have become these kind of political places where the kids are learning everything but the reading, writing, and arithmetic. So we don't want unschooling. We want empowerment. And it's been slipping every year in the last 5 years as more and more kids are getting homeschooled, which there's nothing wrong. That's your choice if you're a parent and you're able to do that. But, John, not a lot of parents can stay home and homeschool their kids. So we have to do better in America to help our children. I don't think there'll be a lot of pushback, and I'll tell you why, because a lot of monies went through that Department of Education and ended up who knows where. So I think a lot of people don't want to open up those, cans of worms about all that stuff.
And what's the timetable for something like that happening? It has to go to Congress first?
Yes, and it's looking to happen in the first quarter of 2026, which is right around the corner. This has been worked on behind the scenes since last March, and they're ready to unleash this. I really don't think there's going to be pushback because there's been such chaos on that front.
I've seen it happen ever since COVID. Our kids have been suffering. Their math scores are down. Their reading scores are down. And between COVID and the fentanyl and the marijuana and all the drugs, it's hurting our kids.
Hurting our kids, but we also have to cut off, which is President Trump's one of his main, talking points agendas. We have to cut off the wasteful spending. Can you imagine, John, if we took this money and directly poured it into where we could actually see it into teaching our kids and qualifying. There's a lot of murky stuff going on with the Department of Education.
Yeah.
So let's take that money, let's now distribute it to those different departments, Department of Labor, Department of Interior, and really get working, because the feeling with the administration is if those 4 departments have now each a chunk, they will really get busy, they know what they have to do, and remember, this all trickles down to our precious kids and to our families, John, and we say every week they are overwhelmed. They can't handle all this. We need to help them and step up. So this is a big step.
Lynn Shaw, Lynn's Warriors. People want more information. What is it, lynswarriors.org?
There you go, lynswarriors.org. Community creates change is our hashtag. We want everybody to contact us, join us, and we want everyone to be a warrior in their own home and community.
Thank you so much for coming on, and keep defending our kids.
Thanks, John.
Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. Every Sunday morning, we'll bring you the latest in what's happening in our community, our country, and the world. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Have a nice Sunday.